عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين، بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. We thank Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala for granting us this blessing of life, for giving us this opportunity to once again witness and mourn the 1372nd anniversary of the Shahadat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala not to make this azah of ours the last azah of our life, and may He Jalla wa Ala make it as such that this year the arrival of the Imam takes place, and inshallah soon with the voice of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, this Imam who resembles the Abu Abdullah al-Hussein the most, his voice is heard, and we too support and assist him in his mission, inshallah. Again, it is one of these sorrowful events that has unfolded, and for that tips are mentioned, given to us by our ulama, and that is because of this tragedy that has afflicted Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and we are mourning. The start of our new year is different. Again, as reminders and tips to each one present over here. Minni, is there anyone, any other slave who is lower than me? Rasulullah says that I am the lowest. There is no one lower than me. When we say Ashhadu annaka Muhammadun abduhu wa rasuluh, that we bear witness that you are the Prophet and you are his servant, his slave. Here Rasulullah himself, he says that there is no one that lower than me. And then the hadith continues. This lady, she comes to Rasulullah. When she sees that he is eating, she says, Ya Rasulullah, can you give me some of your food? Now that was her not observing the etiquettes on one side. But when she hears this reply from Rasulullah that there is no one lower than him in this entire creation, there her ma'rifah, it triggers. And then she finds out that there is something wrong in her addressing the Prophet in that way. And then she says, Ya Rasulullah, can I have some of the food which you are eating? And in reply, Rasulullah offers her some food. Here she says that no, Ya Rasulullah, not the food that you are eating. I want the food which is in your mouth. And then Rasulullah gives her the food which was in her mouth. She eats it. Now here the hadith ends. Continues here our sixth Imam. He says that from the moment that she ate that food which Rasulullah offered her until the day she died, she never was afflicted with any marad, any disease, no problem with her health at all. Now how come? What happened? It was the food just the ordinary food that was made in this dunya, grown, cultivated in the farms, in the fields of this earth. It was ground in the house of the Prophet, cooked in that house of the Prophet. So there was nothing miraculous in that food, in that. It was that intention of Rasulullah. It was the purity of this lady over here, that she wanted something from Rasulullah, and not only the food which wasn't eaten with the food which he had already eaten. So the other thing which we find in this hadith over here, when Rasulullah says that, is there anyone lower than me, any other slave lower than me? It's a teaching to us that we have to know ourselves, we have to recognize ourselves. That many a times we find these terms like I, my, etc. That is not permitted. We should not say it's mine, it is me, it is here I. Again, in one of these reports that we find, a person comes, knocks at the door. Here Rasulullah, he comes to open the door and says that, who is it? The person says, I'm here. Rasulullah, he opens the door and says that, next time when you knock at the door and someone says, who is it? Say, open the door. Don't say, I. Don't say, it's me here. Because that will make you end up into pride, into ujb, and that will just devastate you. That the moment a person starts finding himself as an entity who is present, he himself in a way is a mushrik. Why? That shirk starts erupting in that individual when he starts recognizing himself. For that recognition, we are told that never ever say I, my, etc. Now, one of the teachings that we were taught in the durus of tafsir, Ayatullah Jawadi, Hafizahullah, he never said, he used to say that when even if you come to a conclusion and it is your opinion, say it is said, it is believed. Not that I believe, it is my opinion, I think this is what should be. This I and my is going to ruin you. Just keep away from that. And never ever did we ever hear from him, although he is one of the great mufassirin today, it is believed, it may be as such. Always assumes himself as a third person. So that is a teaching that we find from this glorious words of Rasulullah, where he says that never promote yourself. Or for example, among the teachings that we have in Hajj, and to this little importance is given, and we find it in the Tawzi al-Masail of all of the Maraja. That is, when a person has worn the ihram, from that moment he has entered until he returns, that pride has to be broken in him. For that reason, even if he was someone of a great status and he had so many people working under him, in this spiritual journey of Hajj, he shouldn't do anything where he is shown or understood by others as the boss. Or even if he asks his employees or those who are working under him to give him a glass of water, and with that him being the boss is understood, that again he has committed a sin, and some believe that he has to give a kafara for that. That is a goat. So that ego, that ujb, that ghurur, it has to be broken down throughout our life. Because this riyah that we talk about, it is among those issues that just ruins and breaks whatever amal we do. Even if it is prayers. If I was saying my prayers and there was someone present in that majlis, I raised my tone, or if I lowered my tone, so that he listens to that, he gets happy, that namaz becomes batil. Because there is someone else in that namaz, in that prayer, who is a sharik, who becomes a partner to mine. So when there is someone else who is a partner in that prayer, then that prayer also is null and void, it's batil. Hadith says that if we say our a'mal with an intention that someone is going to see that. Allah on the Day of Judgment will say that go and get the reward from that person who you showed off to. I'm not going to give any reward for that. So it's tough. So this woman, she, with that tongue of hers, addresses Rasulullah in that way, and then she is given that food which he requested Rasulullah, and she is guided. So an uninvited guest who comes to the presence of Rasulullah, and she is guided and she is blessed in that way. That is, until the day she dies, she is never afflicted with any bala, any disease. The same thing we find in Quran, for example, in the month of Ramadan. Quran says, Kutiba alaykumus siyam. That siyam, the fast, it has been written for you. So over here, host is Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. He hosts, and then as a result of that host, of that feast which he lays, he says that someone who is fed from this feast which is laid before him, he will be protected from that fire of Jahannam. And again we find what has been laid before us. It is these majalis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, where the host of this azar is Hazrat Zahra salamullahi alayha. Quran says that Prophet Musa, he was invited to Kuhetur for 30 days, which again was extended for a further 10 days, for 40 days. And then we find in Quran that Surah Al-Fajr, that is these 10 days are those glorious 10 days. For Surah Al-Fajr, we have a hadith which says that Surah Al-Fajr, whosoever qala اقرأوا سورة الفجر في فرائضكم ونوافلكم, that you recite Surah Al-Fajr in your wajib and your mustahab prayers. Why? فإنها سورة للحسين. Surah Al-Fajr is the surah of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. That is, the other name given to this Surah Al-Fajr is Surah Al-Hussein. And then says that من قرأها كان مع الحسين بن علي عليه السلام يوم القيامة في درجته من الجنة. And whosoever recites this surah in his wajib or his mustahab prayers, he will be in the same rank as Abu Abdullah al-Hussein in the paradise, in the heavens, just for that recitation of that Surah Al-Hussein. And inna Allah Azizun Hakim, Allah is almighty and all wise. So another feast, it is laid before us, and that is these days of Abu Abdullah, the 10 days which are the days of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Hadith says that Allah, He created the heaven from the nur of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, from the light of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. On a night like tonight, if tomorrow is the first, a person, he comes to the presence of our 8th Imam, and Imam says that في أول يوم من المحرم فقال لي يا ابن شبيب أصائم أنت فقلت لا. Shabib, Imam says, are you fasting? Shabib says, no. Imam replies, إن هذا اليوم هو اليوم الذي دعا فيه زكريا ربه عز وجل. That is, on this day, which is the first day of Muharram, Prophet Zakaria, he has this supplication to Allah. And what is that supplication? That his wish, his desire was to be blessed with a child. And then says, in that mihrab, Prophet Zakaria had that supplication, and it was the first of Muharram that his wish was granted. فاستجاب الله له أن وأمر الملائكة فنادت زكريا وهو قائم يصلي في المحراب إن الله يبشرك بيحيى. That is, he was praying in that mihrab, and there Allah gives him the good news that Yahya is going to be given to you. That was on the 1st of Muharram. And here Imam continues, فَمَنْ صَامَ هَذَا الْيَوْمِ ثُمَّ دَعَى اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ istajab Allah lahu kama istajaba li Zakariya alayhi salam. Says, if you have wishes, if you have hajat, observe a fast on this first day of Muharram, and whatsoever wishes and hajat you may be having, like Allah granted the wishes and hajat of Prophet Zakariya, yours also will be granted. That is, and then Imam continues, says that this month of Muharram, its sanctity was observed even before Islam. But how come that people who are the adherents of Islam, they broke the sanctity of this month, and that is by killing the grandson of the Prophet. And then Imam says how the women and children, they were taken into captivity, and one after the other the Masa'ib were mentioned. Continues, says, Yabna Shabib, in kunta bakiyan li shay'in fabki lil Husayn ibn Ali. Says, O son of Shabib, if you ever felt like crying and you cried for something, says, switch that cry of yours to the Aza of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. No matter what reason, for what thing you are crying, switch it and cry for Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. Says that someone who sheds tears for Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, the first benefit that he would see, it is when he is departing from this dunya. That Malakul Maut, he will be kind to him. The two angels, Munkir and Nakir, they are going to be kind and more merciful towards him, just because of these tears that were shed for Abu Abdullah al-Husayn. When it comes to the Aza of Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, reciting a shi'r, reciting a poem for Abu Abdullah, riwayat, they say that whosoever says a bayt, Allah the Almighty, He makes a bayt for him in the heaven. Bayt meaning a home for him in the heaven. You recite one phrase for Abu Abdullah here, He will build a home for you in the hereafter just for that recitation of that one bayt. Or for example, in the presence of Imam, when his Sahabi comes, Imam says that, I heard that you recite for Abu Abdullah, is that true? He says, yes, on and off I do recite. Imam says, recite now. He starts reciting on the Masa'ib of Abu Abdullah. Imam cries. Everyone present in that majlis cries. And once his recitation was done, Imam says, by God, the angels, the near angels, they were all present in this majlis. They too cried with you. As a result of these azar, these shedding tears of yours, you are forgiven. And Allah has made and availed everything in the heaven for you, and made that heaven wajib and mandatory for you, for this buka, for this azar of Abu Abdullah, for these tears which you shed for Abu Abdullah. Or for example, in the same hadith, Imam Raza alayhi salam, he continues to Shabib's son and says that if you cried on Hussein and your tears, they fell on your face, Allah the merciful will forgive all your sins, great and small, no matter how much they are, they will be forgiven. So when we cry for Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, the more the ma'rifah that we have, the better the input of that is going to be. That is, that ma'rifah, meaning we know who Abu Abdullah is, we know what his mission was, we know what he wants from us. The more that ma'rifah, the more that benefit of those tears that are shed for Abu Abdullah is going to be. Among these tragedies that unfold one after the other, for example, we find that Abu Abdullah, he is in Mecca, he is in Ihram. And coming out of Ihram without completing the Hajj, that is not permitted. When Imam is informed that there is going to be a bloodshed over here, and they are en route coming towards Mecca to kill the Imam, Imam abandons his Hajj on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, which is Yawm al-Tarwiyah in Arafat. He leaves that Hajj, changes his Hajj from Hajj Tamattu to Umrah Mufrada, and then moves away. With all these Bani Hashim who were with him, they leave Mecca and they come to a point. Their Imam informs them what his intentions are. Now this happens when on that same day Muslim ibn Aqil is martyred in Kufa. Imam comes to this point and is informed that my intentions are that I'm going to go to Iraq. Bani Hashim are there. And it is such a painful situation that Hazrat Zainab Kubra is also present. When Imam speaks and says that my intentions are that I want to head towards Iraq, one of the Sahabis, he says that what about the women and children that are present over here? Shall we send them back? Zainab Kubra, she hears that. She says, who was that? What did he say? Did he say that I have to leave Hussein? That is impossible. My commitment with Hussein is that I have to be with him no matter where he goes. No matter what the circumstances are, I have to be with him. They come to a point, and there Zainab Kubra is to disembark from her ride. The moment she wants to come down, Hazrat Abbas, he says, alert, everyone, all eyes down. Zainab, she is to disembark. Qasim, he steps forward, puts a footstool for her to come down. On one hand, Ali Akbar, he puts a curtain there so that Aunt Zainab, she disembarks and gets into the house. This was a scenario, and it was one of those occasions where she traveled with honor, where she has someone to help her to disembark from a camel, and with all those formalities to be observed so that she enters her house. Not long did it take, just a few days, from this day of Zul Hijjah until the day of Ashura, that everything turned. Now on the day of Ashura, when everything perishes, everything is devastated, and when Zainab is to embark on those camels, there is no one to help, no one to put that footstool. None of the brothers are present. The only male member that is present, it's Imam Sajjad, and he also is ill. She has to help every member, that is mostly women and children, to ride on that camel. And when it is her own turn, she says, where is Abbas? Where is Akbar? Where is Qasim? Is there anyone to assist me? With that mazlumiyat, thirst on the other side. Children, one after the other, many of them were killed. And among the masa'ib that are reported over here is that Ruqayya, this young toddler of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, whenever she remembered her father, instead of her being calmed by those present over there, she is pushed down, she is thrown down from those camels. And many a times they find that these children, they are missing, and they found that she has fallen down quite behind. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala help us shed tears for this noble household of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein in these days to come. May Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala grant us health, all those who are present over here, whatsoever hajat they may be having. May Allah grant and bless them with every goodness. All those who are ill and ailing, may Allah grant them shifa. All those who have passed away, may Allah elevate their ranks. May Allah Jalla wa Ala hasten in the return of our Imam, our Master, and count us among His best supporters and those who seek martyrdom in His service. Matam Hussein.